Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very old friend and a very special guest on the channel. His name is Vatsal Ambasta. He's a really avid developer and I'll let him do his own introduction. So Vatsal, over to you.
Hey guys, this is Vatsal here. I think Nikhil and I have known each other for six years now, I guess. Yeah, so Nikhil and I know each other from 2016, I guess. And so I'm mostly a Unity specialist. I've been working with Unity since 2010. I, uh, I know that a lot of people don't remember this, but back then Unity used to have a Unity web player. So I started my career with making Unity web player games, which was kind of like the next generation of Flash. Back then, you could play 3D games in the browser, Unity web player, and then eventually I kind of moved to Android development, and also over time starting to make things like developer platforms, monetization, analytics, and for the last five years or so, I've been working in all kinds of industries. Military, arts and humanities, research and development, psychology, construction simulations, all kinds of things made with Unity. And basically, long story short, I'm a freelancer who has worked with like maybe a dozen industries so far.
Awesome, awesome. And guys, I just wanted to tell you that I also met up with Vatsal very recently in Bangalore. So if you want to check out that experience, I've also recorded a vlog experience. I'll leave the link in the description and in card somewhere here or here. And when I met Vatsal, he mentioned that he also happened to work with the great A.R. Rahman. So Vatsal, can you shed a little bit of light on what project you did over there, and what are your learnings or takeaway, and how was it working with him?
Oh yeah. So I think so. The reason A.R. Rahman's tech team got in touch with me is because, and maybe we'll get into this a little more further, but I have an open source repository for GPU driven encoding for video players in Unity, and it's not entirely mine. It actually uses some other libraries that I have repurposed for Unity's use cases. But I think we originally got in touch in 2019 when they were still in production, and we couldn't find, even though we talked for like a week or two, we couldn't find anything which was, we couldn't find they had some production issues and we couldn't find a right match. But finally, I had forgotten about this entirely. But November or December 2021, they actually got back in touch with me. I had almost forgotten their names. And they said that, the movies. So A.R. Rahman, actually, as pretty much everyone in India knows, he is the most iconic music director for the last 2-3 decades now. But he was making his movie directing debut. And A.R. Rahman, for those who don't know, he is a very tech savvy, a very ingrained individual. And for reasons which are not, which are pretty obvious, given how things have been going for the last few years, they had been working on a VR movie, and they got back in touch with me saying that we have finished the movie. It's a VR movie and it's going to be premiered at the Cannes Festival in France. The Cannes, just like Sundance Festival, Cannes Festival, one of those festival circuits, is going to be premiered in Los Angeles and a bunch of different places. So yeah, I've been for the last, I think it's now been a year, I've been in charge of making their virtual reality software. It's actually a very remarkable film. So not only do you wear a headset, so you can look around, see what's happening. You almost feel like you're actually on the set, but it's also on a seat. It's on a chair, like a revolving chair that moves around, directs you where you should be looking at. It has rumble, vibrations, all those things, and it also has scent devices. So when let's say, because scent is a very central part of the movie. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but the movie is about scent is a very central part of how the story evolves. It's about how scent and memories are correlated. Sometimes you just think about like, oh, how things used to be back when I was 11 years old. My grandparents, maybe my granddad used to smell like this because he used to apply this hair oil or something. So scent is a very central part of it, and so as a result of that, not only do you have these chairs that move around, but you also have these scent devices that throw out these scents throughout the movie. So yeah, I was involved in making a very complicated VR video player. I mean, usually you just have VR audio, VR video, VR subtitles maybe, but this also had locomotion. This also had scent. So I worked on some software for that project. It's also going to be out for more public consumption through Oculus Store, and mainly through Oculus Store, where people can download this app and watch the movie in this Oculus app. So I've been heading the development of that as well. Some of the things, some smaller projects such as light field display development using looking glass screens, holographic screens, and things like that. So that's what most of the development on the A.R. Rahman front has been. I actually went to Chennai for like 5 weeks. I met him a couple of times. Yeah. It was really good. He knew a lot of the things. For example, the MetaHuman framework, the MetaHuman plugin framework, what do you want to call it, in Unreal. So he is up to date with all of those things. So he's asking me questions regarding those technologies.
Fantastic. And what was the name of the movie?
It's called Le Musk. Le Musk. So that's a movie. It's not been released for public viewership so far. It's only been in the film festival circuits, and if you just Google it, there's a lot of coverage that has about the movie, a lot of reviews and all those things.
Awesome. That's really exciting to know. And scent or fragrance being a fifth element. I think I think I remember going back in this place wherein it was like 7-dimensional movie theater. It had your water throwing at you, the seats moving around here and there. So I think it's an exciting thing to and adds another layer of immersion. And speaking of movies, you also mentioned that you were working on some movie streaming app, which was I think called RetroReel. So what's RetroReel about? How did the idea come up, and what are your plans with that?
So RetroReel, even though we are kind of undergoing a sort of rebranding, we want to rebrand into a different name, mainly because of a little bit of conflict with some other. There's another channel called RetroReels with an S. Okay. So we are kind of undergoing a rebranding. So maybe we'll change it to like something else, But the whole idea about because honestly, I'm not so much into Marvel and DC and all that stuff. I'm still like, even when I was young, I like maybe like young years and when I was in college, that I was more into the 90s movies, and over time I've only gone back and back and back, and now I'm interested in the movies from the 40s and 50s and all those things. So I found out one day, maybe it was just before the Corona pandemic began, that movies actually have a copyright expiration date. So after a certain period of time, you are free to broadcast it, stream it, all those things. And so I thought, I looked everywhere, like there are obviously some OTT platforms where you can watch The Wizard of Oz or Casablanca or whatever. But there is no, let's say, Netflix of old movies, right? So we started working on that. It's been in development for like 2 years now. It's initially it was mostly me, just doing everything from the programming and UI design to content deployment, everything like that. But now we have like a little bit of a team gathering around it. So it's a movie streaming app. Surprisingly, or like maybe you could say intuitively it's made in Unity, because nobody thinks about Unity when it comes to making a movie streaming app. But I have many reasons why I made it in Unity, mainly because all I've done for the last 12 years is Unity, and I wanted to make an MVP. So obviously the first software I thought of was Unity. So we have close to 300 movies now, going from 1915, I guess 1915 or 1912 is the oldest movie we have. And I think, and the latest movie we have is maybe from 1968. I think that's Night of the Living Dead, a very iconic zombie movie. So a span of like 50, 60 years, where a lot of, it is called old Hollywood, or the golden era of Hollywood. We have, all these movies that you can stream. Currently it's for free, no subscription required. And you can just go there, watch these movies. We are trying to add like at least 20, 30 movies every month. There's no lack of content there, right? You can just, you can find so many movies from that era, which are very iconic. Like, I mean, if you just look a little more into it, I mean, we've all come across pop culture references of Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando and Audrey Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe, all these stars from the 40s, 50s, 60s. But the app basically caters to people who have this, just like me, a little bit of a nostalgic appeal, and also to people who actually lived in those times, and they grew up with those movies. And so there's Amazon Prime doesn't focus on retro movies. Netflix doesn't focus on retro movies. So that's kind of a niche that we are going towards. We are streaming movies. We also have plans to start selling merchandise, which is kind of a niche thing, but just something that I feel like should be done. We have to preserve film heritage, just like games or books or anything like that, right? I mean, and we have started off with Hollywood movies, but we'll soon be moving to Bollywood movies also, and French movies, the French New Wave movement, as it's called. So that's Retro Reel going to be rebranded into something else.
Amazing. That's a really unique opportunity that you've identified, and to even think in that direction about the overall licensing expiration and all. Hats off. I think it's a very unique idea, and I've known you since ages now, and back in the day you were completely into hardcore tech, and I'm sure you still are. And you're a great advocate about open source development. I remember back in the day you were working on this car engine, right? And I reached out to you and I asked you, if it all we can use that same engine in our game. And I have to say it was a pretty robust engine. So why open source? What are its advantages, disadvantages, and what sort of inspiration does it drive you to work on open source?
So developing open source repository, I didn't plan that. Okay. So initially the way it came about is that I had this client who wanted something to be made, and way before even we signed the contracts and all those things, I started working on it. And then I remember this was around the time of Diwali 2017. They needed some software which simulates fireworks on big screen and all those things. And before the contract even began, I started working on it. And we never got to, working together. We never signed a contract. The contract never began. And I felt like, all this work that I did, what's the point of it? And then I decided to just release it open source, and it got a few stars on GitHub, and since then, I guess, open source development has been at the core of everything I do. At the root of it, I'm still a freelancer. I find clients who are working on, let's say, a 3-month project, 6-month project, 12-month project, whatever. right? But a lot of times the clients are willing to be like, okay, if you make a module which you think is reusable and which could benefit the open source community, because honestly, I feel like if you compare it with the web development, game development doesn't have a very robust open source ecosystem, right? I mean, if you look at web development, pretty much everything is open source, right? Nobody uses anything which is proprietary and black boxed. um, so I started making these open source repositories, and I'd say there are like multiple reasons why I did this. Of course, you could say that, for example, I have 2 or 3 popular open source repositories. One of them is a voice chat plugin for Unity, right? So doesn't matter what the network if it is Wi-Fi, if it is photon networking, or if it is some peer-to-peer WebRTC based thing, you can still adapt it to your own use cases and do your voice chat. The other one, which is popular, is, as you said, the car physics repository, which I think is probably in the top 5 car physics repositories for Unity in the world. I'm guessing. Could be
Wow.
even be top 3. I'm not sure.
What's the name of the
It's called Torque, Tork. I
POR?
would advise, although, that it is not entirely production ready. So unless if you can go through the physics code and understand what's going on, and you can fork it and modify it according to your own use case, it's not as production ready. But a couple of things that I made, a handful of things that I made, which became popular in the open source community. Sometimes I come across these Steam logs where you can see what libraries are being used in games, and I just found, okay, this game is using my voice chat plugin. This game is using my vehicle physics plugin, and that's brought a lot of not only a lot of satisfaction as to, because I when I was learning Unity in 2010, it was just using PDFs and all those things like articles. But now I kind of feel like I'm giving back to the community in some way. But it's not just that, but the community also gives back to me, because I get a lot of clients who come to me saying that, okay, we saw your voice chat plugin. We have a little different requirement. Can you adapt your plugin to our use cases? And there's like, sure, so it's kind of like a two-way thing where I'm contributing to the community as well, but the people from the community also coming to me saying that, okay, we have this use case, we need voice chat, or we need some physics. We see that you have this engine built, this plugin built. Can you help us integrate it? Can you help us use it according to our application's requirements? So, that's just been an ongoing thing. And even though I haven't contributed much to my open source repositories in the last 1 year, maybe, but I'm hoping that 2023 would be the year when I have a lot of these open source repository ideas where I'd be pushing them, releasing all those things.
Awesome. That's amazing, and all the very best to you for your open source endeavors. And that brings me to my next question, which typically deals with artificial intelligence. And I'll kind of change the question a bit. I want to know your opinion on the state of AI right now, and your thoughts on the entire Chat GPT fiasco that's going on. Because I'll tell you what, I tried my hands on Chat GPT, and I've made an entire
Yeah,
video on this.
I saw your LinkedIn post with
Yeah.
the chat GPT thing.
So
Yeah.
should programmers be concerned? Should we be worried about that we'll all lose our jobs? What are your thoughts on AI, and what are your thoughts on future of AI?
I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's a matter to be very concerned. Of course, you can get really deep into it and talk about some of the ethical aspects of it. For example, DALL-E and Midjourney, they are probably trained on the artwork of other artists and all those things. But so we are using AI to automate a lot of our marketing material at RetroReel, because I said we are creating merchandise for RetroReel, which is, again, as I said, retro movie stuff. So we're creating merchandise. You can get a coffee mug which has Audrey Hepburn floating in space, right? And of course, there's no picture of Audrey Hepburn floating in space, but you can go and tell DALL-E that give me a picture of Audrey Hepburn or Marilyn Monroe floating in space, and it gives you a really good picture. And maybe it's 90% there, 10% you have to do some editing and all those things. So we are really involved in those things. As someone who's also trying to launch all these businesses, I find it extremely helpful. So I think there's always going to be an incentive to use things like this, right? We have a lot of artwork that needs to be created, and if it could be automated with AI, is always better, right? You can just write a script and get this thing. But I feel that it's not just about tech. I just feel that everything that AI automates, it's mostly the jobs that people were already tired of doing themselves. It's the very repetitive manual jobs. And honestly, a real artist, like a really energetic, enthusiastic artist, if you give that person AI tools, right, they can create things beyond their own imaginations. So it's not a matter of replacing. I think it's a matter of replacing what's at the bottom, but using the same tools, you give so much power to people who are at the intermediate and advanced level that they can create next level stuff. So, how many times have you written? I mean, you don't have to write anyway, but sometimes, let's say you're making a game in Unity, and you want to, let's say you're making it for a client, and you want to send a bill to a client, and the client says, I want to be able to fly around this scene and see what's there. So you go to Google and type flycam script Unity GitHub. You get this GitHub script, you copy it, paste it, you move it to a scene as a component, and you make a build and send it to them, right? And that's the kind of work that nobody likes to do. Nobody likes to go to Google and do this, all these kind of things, or make things which are very repetitive. You have to go and serialize a bunch of components so that you can drag and drop things on Unity, or it might be very similar in Unreal also. I feel that at the bottom level, maybe there's a lot that is being and that is going to be automated, but that is not a cause of concern. There are a lot of things that Unity has automated for us, right? There are a lot of things that Unity does for us, which in 1990s was hardcore stuff. Right. But at the same time, when you look at architectural level designs, if you're trying to make an application or a game, let's say, I'm mostly into making non-gaming applications in Unity, right? And soon enough, you are crossing tens of thousands of lines, so much stuff going on. What kind of architecture do you want to use? Do you want to use domain-driven architecture? Do you want to use something else? And that's the kind of stuff that AI cannot do right now. And by the time AI will start to do that kind of stuff, humans, I believe humans would have evolved to something even more advanced, right? And I think the same goes for art. I've been using ChatGPT, and it feels to me like ChatGPT. I'll give you an example. So we're trying to make a social media post, on Instagram, where you can scroll through 10 slides as to why Night of the Living Dead was so influential in 1968. And of course, you can go and you can research through 10 articles, but you can just go to ChatGPT and say, give me 8 reasons Night of the Living Dead was so influential, and give you 8 reasons. And it's not something that you can't find on your own. It's as if you have an assistant, you have an intern, right? Who, instead of doing like 4 hours of work, gives you all the results instantly. And I think that's just something that increases productivity. I don't feel like AI is replacing people. I just feel like it's making us more and more efficient and fast and stuff like that.
So basically, this is an example that I talked about in my video as well. Basically, AI is doing something that a calculator does for us in terms of calculating all the numbers, right? It's just an enabler for us to save time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly. Just today I was talking with my friend, and he was telling me, like, I don't know, maybe 100 years ago, people had jobs which were like, I don't know, you can call that person a timekeeper. So they were responsible for going to every person's door and I don't know, ringing a bell or something, because they didn't have alarms. So they used to go and ring the bell at, I don't know, 6 a.m. or something. Okay, wake up, because they didn't have an alarm, right?
Oh,
And they were also responsible for going and winding the clocks because the clocks were mechanical back then. So
right.
they used to go to the houses of, I'm guessing, much more affluent people, and they would wind the clocks, the grandfather clock and all those things, and they'll make sure this all run. And obviously, we don't care about any of those things today. Um, I feel like there's this human advancement graph, and there's this AI advancement graph, and of course, if it overtakes that, then we are in a lot of trouble. But I just feel like right now, I mean, as someone who is running these apps and trying to get things done efficiently, I just I just feel like, of course, if I use AI, I can get this thing done almost instantly. And it's not just something that a business owner uses, but it's also something that a freelancer uses. Like, okay, I want to make some designs for a client. I could either go and make these things on, or you can get like 10 composites from AI and put them together. So I kind of feel about like that.
Fantastic, man. I think those are some really amazing insights. And what I would like to do is I would like to end this interview with one last question. Is you've been doing freelancing for almost 6 years. So how has your journey been? And you're also a full-time freelancer. It is not something as a part-time for you. So how has the overall experience been? Are there ups and downs, or has it been a smooth journey for you? And what are your tips for a new freelancer who wants to just start out their journey in probably tech?
Um, I mean, I can give my example. I mean, so I would say, like in 2016, I was working where we met at the Zero Games. You were using our SDK. I was making the SDK at that company, and we were integrating the SDK in your game, right? So I was working there, and I wanted to start off into freelancing, start doing some freelancing work, and I didn't have any savings or anything like that. So I couldn't just quit my day job overnight and start doing some freelancing. So I mean, you can take up different strategies, but at that time, what I did was, like, I used to go to office at 12, come back at 8, sleep from 8 to, let's say, 1 in the morning, and then get up at 1 in the morning and do some freelancing overnight, go to sleep at 8 in the morning, and then get up at noon and then go to office. So I used to work on the right hand side of the clock, so to speak, right? But there are different strategies of different ways of doing this, and I've been doing this for like 6-7 years now. Obviously, there are a lot of these platforms, for example, Upwork or freelancer.com or Fiverr, and it seems at first very daunting, like, and it'll seem even more daunting if you just quit your day job overnight. So I really advise against that. Don't quit your day job. Like, have at least like 6 months of your living expenses with you. And then you start working, and maybe in the beginning you will work at really low wages. Maybe you're making this big zombie apocalypse level, and you're just being paid, let's say, 10,000 rupees or something. But I strongly believe in the value of intangible things, right? For example, my open source libraries are intangible things. I make them. It takes hundreds of hours to make them. I put it out. It's all for free. But I just hope that some clients will come through that repository. So similarly, maybe you go and make some, and I'm only saying this because I've done this. I made a zombie apocalypse level 10,000 rupees, okay, when I was starting off. But it looks really good on your portfolio. And the thing about freelancing and contracting is you can raise your rates rapidly. You expose yourself to a lot of different kind of clients. I mean, I've worked with blockchain people, level design people, ed tech, ad tech, military, arts and humanities, and all kinds of things, right? So the benefit of freelancing is you can expose yourself to so many different industries, and you get so much experience out of it, regardless of whether you're a designer or a programmer or an artist. You but you have to let those intangible intangible seeds bear fruit. And for that, you require a little bit of savings, a little bit of stability, maybe in the form of a day job or something. But it can rise really fast. And even today, I'm still freelancing. I'm full-time freelancing for a company called ManageXR, which is a global leader in mobile device management for VR devices. But I use whatever money I get from there to fund my other projects. It could be paying for all the server costs of RetroReel. It could be paying for hiring a RetroReel intern. It could be the number of hours I spend on my open source repository. So freelancing really opens you up to a lot of different industries. A lot of people, and I hope I'm not running out of time. I mean, I have a tendency to ramble on, but just like pretty much everybody else, I entered the gaming field thinking that one day I'll be making Splinter Cell. That was the game which got me into game development, right? But honestly, I don't feel like working on Splinter Cell now. I don't feel like being being a Ubisoft employee and working on, let's say, the AI or the level design of Splinter Cell. Pretty much everyone who enters the gaming industry nowadays, maybe they get into it thinking about Fortnite and PUBG and Genshin Impact or something like that. Back then, it was Splinter Cell for me and SWAT 4 for me. But at some point, you come to realize that there are so many more moving parts, and that gaming technology can be deployed into education, advertising. It can be deployed into tourism, all kinds of things. And maybe as a programmer, I feel like doesn't matter where my skills are being deployed, as long as I'm getting to code something interesting, something challenging. I can develop my skills, and maybe in the form of in the form of my fees from freelancing, I can redirect some of my fees into making some of my side projects.
Awesome. Great interaction, Vatsal. I think it was extremely entertaining, right from AR Rahman to AI to the AI apocalypse. We kind of touch base on all of these factors. So, guys, what I will do is I'll leave all the links in the description for Vatsal's work. If at all anyone has a requirement for a game development or a VR project, feel free to get in touch with him. All of his contact details are mentioned in the description. And Vatsal, thanks a lot for taking your time and speaking with me on my channel. I hope this interaction serves useful to anyone who is searching for an information like this. With that in mind, guys, thanks a lot for watching. And if you like this video, press the like button. And if you are finding my channel for the first time, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss my other videos. I keep on making videos on games and game development. That's it for this video. I'll see you in my next one. Until then, take care.